So I think I'll go ahead and start. So welcome everyone, and thank you so much for signing up for this workshop about self-belief. So I'll start by introducing myself. So my name is Noona, and I am an intuitive life coach, and I coach, it varies really. I mainly coach in corporate environments and settings like this. I do group coaching, I also do one-to-one coaching. And the thing I love about coaching so much is that it's a little bit like a mirror where someone can get you to see your blind spot. And once you've seen it, you can never unsee it. It's a little bit like riding a bike. Once you ride a bike, you will always remember. So the things that you learn in this coaching, you're going to learn how to use your brain. And it is so, so powerful because we're not taught how to use our brain at school, unfortunately. So if you have any questions, we've got a Q&A box. At the end, I'm going to answer all the questions that you have. So put them in there. If something comes up, just put them in there and I'll answer them all at the end. So I'm going to start. I just want to start by telling you what got me into coaching and what got me into really self-belief, which I think is such an important topic. And it's the core of everything that we do in life. So in my past life, I was a headhunter. And I started recruiting when I was about 20 years old. I went into a management training scheme straight out of uni. And I got into this HR, it's in Hartwell in Oxford, as everyone knows. And I started working in HR and started interviewing salespeople and working with salespeople. And as my career grew, I became a headhunter, and that's what I did for 22 years. And one of the things that I realized when I started interviewing is that you can have two people for the job, and two people who have very similar work experience. But there was something about one person who turned up for the interview who would get the job. And it wasn't necessarily the person with the most experience. And I just was blown away by this. So in my 22 years working as a headhunter, I became obsessed about what was it that made someone get the job and someone didn't. And then I realized it was some magic. These people who got the job, there was something magnetic about them. You know, those people that you meet, they walk into the room, it's the way they hold themselves, it's the way they talk. And when you break it down, it becomes the belief that they have in themselves. That is really the core of it. And I would say in my 22 years as a headhunter, I probably completed over 14,000 hours of one-to-one interviews. So as my recruitment career kept going on and on, I became really good at being able to pick who would get the job. And sometimes there would be a cultural fit. And if I thought someone didn't have the right self-belief, I would start coaching them as a recruiter into believing in themselves. What was blocking them? Why didn't they think they could get the job? And we would start working together. I would coach them, and the placements that I was making got higher and higher and higher. And I realized this is really my calling in life. So we are going to dig quite deeply. I'm going to cover what a self-belief is, what are limiting beliefs, and where our limiting beliefs are formed. So some of the stuff that I might bring up can be quite triggering, it can be quite uncomfortable, and sometimes it can be a total eye-opener. So just come with a total open mind. If something has come up today that feels a little bit uncomfortable, feel free to reach out to me. I do offer one-to-one sessions, and I am also offering 2 group programs, which is Fearless Failure and Sensational Self-Belief. So just wanted to kind of put that out there. So let's start. So what is self-belief? Now, if you're going to go into the Oxford Dictionary and look up self-belief, it's going to say confidence in yourself. So why do so many of us find it so hard to have confidence in ourselves? What's going on? Why can one person have such self-confidence in what they do and be so sure in everything that they do and taking action, even if they're a little bit scared, and be able to get the results in their life that they get? And why can one person find it really, really difficult to step into that fear factor and to put themselves forward and do things even when they don't think, no, it's going to work, and are able to deal with failure easier? What is it? The core of all of this is limiting beliefs. There is a belief that you have about yourself, about your life, that is limiting. So I want to talk to you today about how can you identify what your limiting belief is. Say, for example, you want to go for a job and you're like, okay, I'm going for this interview. You've got the interview and you're getting these thoughts like, oh, I don't think I'm going to get the job. Now, what happens is we get nervous and we think we're not going to get the job and I'm not going to get it. And then you go for the interview anyway, and then you're sat there and you're kind of sweating and you've got cold sweats. And you're like, oh, all of these are reactions to this limiting belief. And I'm going to tell you why this happens, because I'm going to teach you about the brain a little bit, but I want to teach you how to uncover what your limiting beliefs are. So when you want to do something and fear comes up, like I'm in this interview, I don't think I'm going to get it. The way to see what is your limiting belief is to ask yourself why. So why don't I think I'm going to get this job? Because I think those candidates are stronger than me. Why? Because I think they've just got more experience. Why? And you just keep asking why and why and why. That you're going on a date. I don't think he's going to like me. I don't think she's going to like me. Why? Because I don't think that I'm worthy. That's your limiting belief. You keep asking why. And limiting beliefs are generally formed up until the age of 5, maybe 7. So what you will start to notice when you keep asking why don't I want to set up a business? Because I might fail. Okay, but why does that matter if you fail? Because everyone will laugh at me. Why does that matter if everyone laughs at me? Because I want to be loved. Why do you think you're not loved? Because I'm not worthy. And generally, self-limiting beliefs they're very short sentences. They're not like, I don't believe that I will succeed because I don't have the right experience in X, Y, and Z. No, they're not like really formed sentences. They are very, very short sentences because these are formed when we are children. So it's like, I'm not enough. Nobody loves me. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. All of these really short sentences, they're developed when we are children. And what happens, we develop these beliefs. Say, for example, our parents said something to us that upset us. Our teacher embarrassed us in front of the whole class. A boy laughed at us when we were up writing something on the board. Something happened, and children are very narcissistic. As children, we tend to think everything is about us. So if you got shouted at when you were a child, or someone said something, or you were in a family setting and people laughed at you, you haven't got the mental capacity because your brain hasn't grown enough for you to think that the parent doesn't have the right vocabulary, or they've had a bad day, or they picked the wrong word. You haven't got the brain capacity to do that. So we tend to internalize it and think, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. So then when we have these beliefs, we keep them at the back of our mind. We're not conscious that we have these beliefs. So we carry on with things that we want to do, but at the back of our mind, this is a belief, and this becomes the driving force in our life. And this is why it's so difficult to take action, because we're driven by these beliefs that are limiting us. And this is why they're called limiting beliefs. The other really dangerous thing I think about limiting belief is that if we don't uncover them and start realizing that these beliefs are holding me back, they're limiting me, they end up taking over our life. And so, for example, I'll use it in a dating scenario. If you don't believe that you are good enough or you are lovable, if you meet someone who shows you loads of love and is really nice to you, because you have the belief that I'm not good enough, that person's going to seem really boring to you, or they're going to seem really desperate, or they're going to seem like, what's wrong with them? Because you think you're not enough. They're giving you so much love. There must be something wrong with them. So what happens, you end up picking the wrong people to go on dates with. You end up going out with people who don't treat you well because on some level you believe that it's you deserve it. It's the same with money. This is why people who have very limiting beliefs about I'm not worthy have struggled with receiving money really easily, have struggled with receiving compliments. And how we do one thing, we tend to do most things. So I have clients coming to me not realizing why there's a ceiling on the amount of money that they're bringing in, or the promotions that they're getting, or the jobs that they're getting, or the meeting the right partner. And it's generally because there's a self-belief there that's literally limiting them to grow. Because that limiting belief, if it's not uncovered, we don't even know that we have it. It ends up being the belief that we think is true. And so the beauty of this is that we get to decide. We get to decide how much attention we give our limiting beliefs. But if you don't know what your limiting belief is, it seems sometimes like you're just going around in a circle. You're just on a hamster wheel. Keep meeting the wrong people, never have enough money, not getting promoted. People are disrespecting you, you don't know why. Why is all these things happening to me in my life? Why? What's wrong with me? There's nothing wrong. Most of the time, there's just nothing wrong. What's wrong is just that you've had a limiting belief when you were younger, and you've picked it up and you've taken it on as your own. So if you have any questions, again, just pop them in the Q&A and I'll answer them towards the end. So when we understand how limiting beliefs work, what happens is most of the time as adults, when we're put in a situation that we need to do something new, we have two options. We either, they say feel the fear and do it anyway. We either are scared and we do it, or we listen to our limiting beliefs. And our limiting beliefs sound like this. Don't do it. You're going to fail. They're not going to like you. Everyone's going to laugh at you. Why did you just say that? Say you want to start a new venture, but what if you fail? What if you invest all this money and you're never going to make it? What if you want to go on a date and it'll be like, they're not going to like you. You're going to make a fool of yourself. You're not the type of person who will attract that type of person. So what happens is we end up listening to these limiting beliefs that we have because we don't know that we're actually functioning from these beliefs that we've got as a child, but into our adult life. So when you understand how the brain works, we have the primitive brain, which is at the bottom. And the primitive brain, I like to describe as a toddler with a knife. Now, I don't know about you, but I had a toddler, older now. I would not give him a sharp knife. It's dangerous. It is so dangerous to have a toddler running around the house with a sharp knife. That's your primitive brain. And the way your primitive brain is, primitive why? Because it's caveman. And when we were in the caveman times, the caveman would go and hunt, and it's very primitive, would go and hunt and get the food. And he would see a tiger, or he'd get hunted, and suddenly he'd get fear, fight or flight. So this emotions is still in us. Our brains haven't developed that much in how much the world has developed and technology has developed. So our predator is the job. It's going on the date, it's asking for a pay rise, asking for a promotion. Our body gets the same fear because those limiting beliefs are so strong. We have thoughts that are not good about it. It creates fear. And we can either take the action of, it's okay, I've got this, or something doesn't feel right. And so you end up not taking the action that you want to take because you're listening to your primitive brain. Now, Then we have the prefrontal cortex, which is what separates us from animals. It's the planning part of our brain. Now, if you understand this, then you can respond to the primitive brain with your prefrontal cortex and say, look, it's the most efficient organ in our body. It doesn't want to use that much energy. So when we have these thoughts of you're not good enough, you're not going to get the job, you're going to fail, nobody's going to invest in your business, our brains like, listen to this, because too much adrenaline is going through my body, I need to stop. But if you understood that it was a limiting belief, then you can plan and know, my brain's going to tell me this. So what a lot of us do is we end up giving in to this primitive brain, this child with a knife, and we give it the power. Oh, you're right. Okay, that's good. As opposed to when you know that those thoughts, your brain is trying to protect you. Your brain really doesn't want your body to feel this adrenaline, go into fight or flight. So it's giving you all these thoughts to try and protect you. So you can start thanking it and go, thank you. This is what people talk about, growing, getting out your comfort zone. Because growth is painful. Why is it painful? Because our primitive brain is trying to protect us. So taking that step, it's fearful. It's the brain's going. So you thank it. Thank you. Thank you. I know you're trying to protect me, but I'm going to go for this job. What we do is we ignore it. And what happens when you ignore it, when you suppress your emotions, ignore your thoughts, you go for it, but you're nervous and you're shaking, but it's like, oh, I see what's happening. I'm feeling nervous because my brain's trying to protect me. I've got a limiting belief here. I'm going to go for it. And you don't have to respond to those thoughts. Thank it and move on. The other thing that really brings out limiting beliefs is disappointment. We don't like to be disappointed. Partly, yes, because of the brain, but also partly when you're a child, imagine the biggest thing that would upset a child is being disappointment. I want that toy, you can't have it. I want the lollipop, you can't have it. It's like this disappointment, but I want the lollipop. I don't want to share. So when we're children, we don't like that feeling of being disappointed. It brings up so many emotions for us. And so when we are in a position where we may be disappointed as an adult, it takes us right back to being a child. And we can respond to it by throwing a tantrum. Have you ever seen an adult throwing a tantrum? I have. And I have also thrown tantrums myself as an adult. You do. You when you're disappointed, you get angry, you get frustrated. It's so similar to what children do, because the feeling of disappointment is it's what our whole lives are as kids. We don't want to be disappointed. We want that toy, we want that ice cream, and we want it now. And when we're in our adult life functioning, if we don't realize that these emotions come up, because of the way our brain works, and because we're wired to not want to be disappointed, and once we start creating this relationship that we are going to be okay, even if and when, despite of disappointment. It's okay to be disappointed. And we are not taught that emotional management as children to be okay with being being disappointed. We're told to like be quiet, you have to share, stop crying, get over it, or however we're told. We're not taught emotional management to be okay with disappointment. And one of the greatest things in life is being able to be disappointed and be okay. We're naturally not wanting to be disappointed. But if you learn to have this relationship with disappointment and accept that it's going to happen. You might go to a restaurant and the meal might not be as great as you want. Disappointment, okay. You're still okay. You're always okay, no matter what. And the way I like to discuss this with my clients is if we all just sit and just take a deep breath. In this moment right now with me on this call, you're okay. Sat here, we're on Zoom together, you're okay. And you will be okay, even when you're disappointed. It's our connection to our breath. Breathing really deeply. We don't tend to, as humans, we really don't tend to breathe deeply enough. It's like deep into the belly. Once you can really learn to breathe so deeply, that brings you back to the moment, no matter what, you will be okay. And these are the people who did so well in the interviews, because they would come, they're literally I would be magnetized to them. You could see when you're interviewing 10 to 15 people in one day, the person who walks in, who's confident, not arrogant, but confident, and they're okay. If they get the job or not, you know they're going to be okay. If they have this energy about them, versus the person who comes in thinking, I'm not going to do well. You can feel it. You can feel that energy off them. And this is something what makes people magnetized to you. When you have this self-belief, you become irresistible. You've ever been in a restaurant and seen someone walk in and you just can't take your eyes off them? Like, it's the way they walk, it's the way they hold themselves, it's the way they speak to the maitre d', it's the way they speak to the wait, it's the way they laugh, it's the way there's an air of like, they're gonna be okay. There is nothing like being with someone who you feel really safe around. And that sense of safety comes that I'm going to be okay no matter what. Even if I'm disappointed, I'm going to be okay. I really urge you today to really think and start developing this relationship with disappointment, because the only way you are going to be disappointed is if you believe that you're going to be okay. It's a belief. It's a belief that you have about yourself. It's a belief that you have about your life, that no matter what, you're going to be okay. If you don't get this job, it's going to be okay. If you break up with this person, you're going to be okay, because in hindsight, you are always going to be okay. And so the patterns of self-belief, it's like you can start taking on different beliefs. I believe that I'm going to be okay no matter what life throws at me. I believe that I'm a great human being. I believe that life is great. And you start having these new beliefs. I believe that I'm going to get this job or something better. That's a belief. I'm going to get this job or something better. So then if you don't get it, there's something better. So you can start developing these new beliefs. One of my greatest beliefs, which had really served me, is that life works for me and not against me. Everything works in my favor, even when it's going wrong. That is such a beautiful belief, that everything works in my favor, even when it goes wrong. That's a belief that you even when things go wrong, there's a lesson. Even when things don't go your way, there's a lesson, you move on. And that's not to say there's not hardship, but there's a strength that I'm going to be all right. And the patterns of limiting belief will keep coming into your life, unless you really look at them, notice them, become aware of them, see the pattern, and make a conscious decision to start taking on different beliefs. Now, one of the ways to create different beliefs is to take action that initially scared you. That your old belief was, I'm not good enough, I'm not loved, that stopped you. Realize, oh, okay, I see this as a limiting belief. but I'm going to take the action anyway. And the action that you take is never as bad as the limiting belief was holding you back. And then you take the action, it's like, oh, that wasn't so bad. And you start, and this is growth. And then you'll get another limiting belief and you take the action. And that it's like weakening. It's like you're not feeding that limiting belief anymore, because every time a limiting belief stops us from doing something, the muscle, it gets bigger. It becomes more powerful. It becomes stronger. And imagine these are beliefs that we've had in children, and that's since we were children. And that's why it feels so big. It's like, but I can't. We fed them like a virus. It's fed and fed and fed, and it's got bigger and stronger and stronger and stronger. But when you start starving it and you don't feed it because you've taken the action and you shrink it, taking the action, like, and then suddenly it becomes really small. And then you've taken all this amazing aligned action in your life, and you're growing and you're developing, and all the things that you thought were impossible once suddenly become possible because you're taking such beautiful action. So it's very similar to something Tony Robbins says, which says where your energy flows, where attention goes. So if you're constantly thinking, I'm not going to get the job, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable. Again, remember, this is on a subconscious level as well. If that's being fed, that's where your attention goes. And where your attention goes is the results that you get in your life. But this is why this is so important to recognize. Recognition is the first thing. Take action. Starve the limiting belief and start actively taking on different beliefs. The thing I find so wonderful about beliefs is it's here. You could believe anything you want to believe about yourself. Anything. You could believe that you are the most gorgeous human being on this planet. You can believe that you are going to be a multimillionaire. You can believe that anything you put your hands to will turn into gold. You can believe that if you wanted to have a relationship with the man or woman of your dreams, you would. You can believe that the love that you have for yourself is the best love that you will ever, the relationship that you have with yourself is the best relationship. It's here. And when I started learning this, I thought, I get to choose. But I might as well put something nice in there. And then suddenly my life started getting better and better and better and better. And suddenly I saw this in my clients and I thought, God, there's really something here. Why we are not taught this in school, I do not know. I think it's such an important thing to do. So how do you start taking this action when you've got these limiting beliefs? Okay, like Noona, I've got these limiting beliefs. I'm aware of them, done the why, and I've realized normally they're quite similar. They're like, I'm not worthy, I'm not enough, nobody loves me, nobody likes me. Again, they're like children sentences. Okay, I'm aware of them. What kind of action should I take? I don't know. The way I like to think about this is think of your higher self. Collaborate to your higher self. So I'll give you an example as someone in an interview, or someone who wants to start a business. So they want to start a business, but they don't think it's going to work. And they are functioning from an old belief that they had of themselves. And they want to start this business with beliefs that they've had here. It's not going to help them get to here. Now, if you're here and you want to start a business, are you going to take the beliefs that you've developed over time? Or are you going to take it from your future self who has already ran that business and it's successful? And generally, if you want to see what kind of beliefs you have about yourself, it's really easy to tell. Look at the results that you've got in your life. Are you getting the results that you want? Because most of what we have today is the beliefs, the result of the beliefs that we've had in the past. For us to get what we want in the future, we need to plant new beliefs today. Like, yeah, but how, Noona, how? I'm not there. With me. So setting up a business and you want it to be successful. So here's your business. You've just got an idea right now. What if you had the belief and knew that your business was going to be successful no matter what? Imagine I was your fairy godmother, and I came from 10 years into the future and I said, listen, you are going to be running a multi-million-dollar business. Pounds, multi-million-dollar pound business. It doesn't matter what action you take, you're going to get there. I guarantee you, I've come from the future and I've got a message for you, and you are going to run the most successful business that you want to run. You're going to be renowned. I'm telling you this. I'm coming now and I'm telling you. And you're like, wow, imagine what action you would take. You'd try this. That didn't work. That's okay. You try this. That didn't work. That's okay. You try this. That didn't work. That's okay. So you keep taking aligned action because you know that it's going to work. And you keep taking action no matter what, because you know that it's going to work. But what happens is we have this belief it's not going to work, and we're scared and we're worried. So we don't take the action. But if you knew no matter what that it's going to work, you would try something and it might not work, and you would fix it and you would align it, and then you would fix it and then you would align it, and you would keep moving forward. And that's the magic. That is the magic of creating what you want. You collaborate to your higher self, you collaborate to your future self, and you slowly work backwards. What action would I take if I knew no matter what it was going to work? I would go forward a bit. I would go forward a bit. So this is what I mean about collaborating to your higher self. So I want to tell you about the story of Walt Disney. So Walt Disney, I don't know if you know this, but he got rejected 300 times for his dream of building Disney World. He got rejected, I think it was 301 times by the banks. 301 times. Imagine his belief in his dream. And Walt Disney now, it generates $50 billion a year. 300 times. And we try something once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, and we give up. He went, he put his suit on, he went. No. He went back home. No, 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 no. 301 times he went to get finance for Walt Disney, for Disney World, and they said no. Imagine that strength, that belief that he had in himself, how much he believed in his dream. And actually, after what happened, once obviously he built the park, so many people tried to take advantage of him, and that resilience that he built from going 300 times really served him later on. He must have had the belief that everything works in my favor, and that he saw a lesson in every no, every no, every no. So this is where I think we give up too quickly. Why do we give up too quickly? Not because there's anything wrong with us, because we have limiting beliefs. And if you believe that everything that you do, there's a lesson, that even when things go wrong, it's like you're getting stronger for your dream to come true. then you're much more likely to keep moving forward. It's like, is it Superman that says with greater power comes greater responsibility? If you're wanting to get the job and make all the money, there's going to be a duality to that. You've got to learn to sit with disappointment. If you're running a business with 50 staff, you're going to have to learn how to deal with when people are not happy. You can't just deal with the good stuff. There's a duality in life. That to deal with happiness, you wouldn't know what true happiness is if you haven't really felt true sadness. You don't know what calm feels like if you haven't gone through anger. And so you won't know what power feels like unless you can sit with the opposite. And that's why so many people don't tend to make their dreams, because it's like, it's not working, I give up, it was obviously not meant to be. And rather than making it like, oh, this is strengthening me, this happened because there's a lesson there for me, this is making me stronger to get to my dreams. Just like Walt Disney, he built that resilience. So then when all the things happened, when he built Disney World, he had that resilience. You look at what he built. His vision must have been so strong, but he also had to deal with the other side. There's like this duality of life, that it's okay that things happen. It's okay that we lose out. It's okay that we fail. But no matter what happens, I'm going to be okay. No matter what happens, I'm going to learn a lesson. The lesson here, what is it? Such a powerful way to live. It's such a powerful way to motivate yourself to keep going no matter what. And there's something here that I want to talk about, which is we can have personal power or we can have circumstantial power. So circumstantial power is if my job's going well and my partner's being nice to me and my kids are behaving and I've got all the money in the bank, then I'm powerful. Then I'm in my power. Then everyone else has power over you. But if you have inner power, if you lose your job, if you've had an argument with your partner, if your children are knocking at your door like mine are, you are still in your power. You have your inner power. That's personal power. And that's where you get to be in control of your own life. Not circumstantial power, but personal power. Now, this is where you get to change the narrative of your life. So you get to decide, does life happen to me or does life happen for me? Is the story that you're going to tell yourself that, oh, look at what happened, this happened when I was at school and now this has happened to me? Or is the story going to be, yeah, I've had some hardship and I'm so much stronger because of it? So really pay attention to the narrative of the story. And then you can also really pay attention to what's the payoff of you telling yourself that story. Now, if you're telling yourself that nobody loves you and things always happen to you, then it means you get to play small. It means you get to stay. Sorry, my kids shouting outside. It means you get to stay in your comfort zone. So there is normally a payoff that you have. And this is where it comes to having trust. So this is where it comes to having true faith in yourself and trusting, because what happens is most of the time, we do not trust until we have evidence. We don't trust until we have the evidence to tell us that it's going to work. But if we need trust, then we're not being brave. Because it's only when we are taking action without evidence, which is where we're courageous, we're brave, where we are taking steps nobody has ever taken before. And this is the piece which I think is so important. It's having that faith. having that faith that you don't require the evidence and you just take the action. You're brave. Go back to Walt Disney. He didn't know that Disney World was going to be what it is today, but he had faith. He had faith in himself. He had faith in his dreams. He had such courage and bravery, and it paid off. And one of the things that I believe is to build self-belief is to be courageous. To build your belief is to have courage. Have faith in your dreams, have courage in your actions. And then you're starving the limiting belief. You're starving the limiting belief and you're taking action. So I think trust really brings it all together. Trust that you're going to be okay. Trust that you get to change and change is here for you. Trust that you can live the life of your dreams. Trust that it's available for you. And so I guess I'm just going to end this with saying, which one are you going to be? Are you going to starve it or are you going to feed it? Your choice. So if anyone has any questions, okay, is there any research that looks at domestic abuse survivors and their relationship with self-belief? Yes, very much so. And very much people in some level have this belief that they're deserving of it, and that they asked for it. And there are specific trauma coaches who do deal with this and who can coach through this and really get you to change the beliefs about it. Absolutely. Yes, I think I answered that. Deep sense of emotional trauma have impact. It has a massive, massive impact. And we can have emotional trauma about things that are as awful as abuse, but it can vary. It can totally vary the limiting beliefs that we have, but we can still get trauma from it. So yeah, thank you for that question. Does anyone have any other questions that they would like to bring to the table? Do you think limiting beliefs get added as you get older? Thinking about 7 to 8 years old, I think they become stronger and we start giving them different. So instead of like, nobody loves me, it's like, I'm really bad at dating. I'm really bad with money. I never get promoted. I'm just really unlucky. But if we go back to the why, they do tend to stem for 7 to 8, but we end up adding and we create new ones and we get really creative. But once you uncover one, it's like a domino effect. You start learning, oh, I see what's happening here. I see what they do. But so we do add to them, we get more creative with them, we add color to them, we add evidence to them. So yeah, great question. Any other questions anyone would like to know? But just before any questions come up, as I said, I do have 2 group coaching programs that really go into this about fearless failure and sensational self-belief as well. How should someone who keeps failing their professional exams get back to self-belief and trust that they can actually pass the exam? So I think it's how you want to see it. What's the narrative here? What's the story that you're telling yourself? Are you telling yourself that you failed the exam because you're really bad at exams, because exams are really hard and you are not the type of person who can do this and you might as well give up your career? Or are you telling yourself, okay, I didn't pass this exam. Maybe I missed a couple of things. Where can I grow? Where can I learn? Did I need to study more? Did I really study enough? Maybe it is a difficult exam and I need to approach it from a different way. So this is where I would say the narrative and the story that we're telling ourselves about having not passed the exam really needs to come in here. In the introduction, you mentioned that you keep asking yourself why. What if you are not good at self-reflection? Yeah, that's a really good question. That's a really good question. You could write it down. You could write it down and say why. And I guess this is where seeing a coach or sitting with your friend and saying, no, I feel like there's something here. So this is definitely where I would say, if you really want to do this work and you're serious about it, find a coach that you can work with. So how do you deal with a family member, friend, whose self-belief is so low that they present themselves as the opposite? You don't want to dent their belief further, but you need to add some reality, but with encouragement. So it's very difficult with family because it can be quite triggering. So one of the things with a family member who has really low self-belief is I would question what's the payoff? Because remember, there's a payoff for everything that we do. So what's the payoff of them having low self-belief? Is it so that they can get sympathy? Is it so they don't have to own up to anything? Is it so that they can have people really help them? So what is the reason that they have this belief? So once you understand that everything that we do in life, we do for a positive connotation, we do it so that we get something out of it. So if you can see it from that point of view, and you can have empathy for them, then I think that would really, really help. But unfortunately, we can't change people. We really can't change as much as we would love to. I said at the start that you do one-to-one sessions. You got me on a couple of points. Good. Do you have any tips on how to break the vicious cycle of perfectionism and I'm not good enough? Yes. So have a look and see, what is this belief of, and actually perfectionism comes from fear. So if you are a perfectionist, it comes from the fear, and we basically don't want to take action because it has to be perfect. It has to be perfect. And so it is a form of procrastination, which also comes from fear, which comes from the belief that I'm not good enough. The way you do that is to really be quite strict with yourself and say, like, what is this stopping me doing? So I want to produce a website, but I don't want to press go until it's perfect. I'm just going to have to press go. I'm just going to have to do it. Just do it, no matter what. Because when's it ever going to be enough? Perfectionism is really a form of fear, and I've seen it with so much in my corporate training and my one-to-one executive coaching, that it paralyzes them. But what's the payoff? The payoff is that they're still playing small because they're in their comfort zone. So when you're willing to step out of your comfort zone, you are willing to not stay as a perfectionist, then your life really does start to change. Is there one belief that you think above all else makes a difference? You mentioned being courageous and knowing that all things will always work out. Excuse me. I think the most important self-belief is one that gets you to take action. Personally, for me, it's trust, having faith, and knowing that everything's going to be okay. That's mine. Yours could be something totally different. The strongest self-belief is the one that you can feel it in your body. You can write them down. You can write them down after okay, thank you for you can write them down and see which one feels good in your body, which one feels like, try them on, like different hats or different clothes or different shoes. Try them on and see which one feels the best, and that's the one that's yours. And your body holds so much. You will be able to tell, be like, oh, that feels good, that drives me, that's really getting me motivated. So try them on. Those are mine. These are great questions. Anyone got any other questions? Does stepping out of our comfort zone really have to do with changing our physical environment? No. I don't think so. I don't think it's changing out of our physical environment at all. I think you can be in the same job, in the same relationship, in the same house, in the same country, and you can make some real changes. And because in the environment that you're in, you can step out your comfort zone. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to change your physical environment at all. And I have a lot of people who come to me wanting to change jobs, saying they're really miserable. And one of the things that I advise them to do is to stay in the job they're in and learn to enjoy it. And then look for a new job from a place of abundance, not lack. So don't look for a job when you're like feeling like I need another job. This job's really bad for me. Take action from a place of like, I'm happy in this job, but I want something better. Such a different way of looking at it. Great webinar, thank you. Is the course info on your website? I actually haven't put it on my website yet, and everyone who has been on this webinar is going to get an exclusive price on the workshops that I'm doing, on the courses. So I'll be sending them to Oxford Brooks admin, and they will be passing them on to you. So thank you so much. What if perfectionism is not connected to procrastination, but to working too hard and too much over time? Do you have any suggestions on this? So working too hard and doing too much over time, there's something that really pops out to me is people pleasing. Are you working too hard to people please? People please comes from lack of self-worth and lack of self-love. And I would say that could come from lack of self-love. Like pushing yourself and punishing yourself and not giving yourself a break and not taking enough joy and not being more joyful. And if a client came to me with that, I would really look at the self-love and the belief of I need to work hard to be loved. I need to do more. I need to hard work. It's only if I work hard that I'm going to be loved or accepted, or so there is definitely something there that I would look at. Unfortunately, I missed the beginning of this webinar and it looks as though the meeting is being recorded, so it will be possible to get the recording. Yes, it will be. And when the recording goes out, not sure when it will be, either tomorrow or later on, and then after that I will also send information on the course. I've had some great questions. Love this. Any other questions before we round up? Apologies for the interruption in the middle. My daughter was outside crying. Oh, but you just got to believe everything's going to be okay. Be courageous. Any other questions? Okay, I think we will. Thank you so much. Thank you you've been so interactive. I've loved all the questions that you've come with and your participation. It's been amazing. I've really enjoyed this. Hope you have too. If you want to follow me on social media, it's literally my name, Noona Nafousi, on LinkedIn or Instagram. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone, and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.